Well, guys, welcome to Pantry Living. And I don't know, week 4, I guess you could call it, of the Pantry Challenge. Once again, sitting at my nice new island. Love this. It is such a great surface. I use it so much and it has changed my world. Should have done it years ago. But anyways, this week has been weird. And I'm going to start with last week. Well, guys, we are starting off this round of the Pantry Challenge where we left off on the last round. Chops. We're having some lamb chops. They are super duper marinated because I will admit they've been in the fridge for at least 2 days now. So super excited for those. They are going to be the tastiest chops I think we've had in a while. And with them, we're going to be eating something I really didn't plan on eating yet, but let's talk about it. Oh my gosh, it is really yucky. It's got yucky bits. This squash, what kind of squash is this?
Is it not a winter banana squash? Is that what it was?
It was a candy something squash.
Candy roaster?
Oh, we'll write it below because I don't remember what kind of squash this is. We got this with the intention that this is one we wanted to grow and therefore we wanted to save seeds from. And we put it downstairs and I have a feeling it just got too cold. We had it down low to the floor. It didn't like that. And so you can see on here, we've got some spots that are no good. But because of the size of this sucker, there's still a lot of spots that I think we'll be able to eat. So we're going to take it, cut it apart, get the seeds out, and we're going to dice it up and we're going to steam it. Normally I would just cut in half and roast, but because we're going to have to cut out so many bits, I don't think it's going to roast super nice. So we're just going to steam it and see how it goes. But the intention was to basically do a taste test and find out if it is as good as it's renowned to be, so that we can make the decision whether we are replacing one of the types that we grow here on the homestead with this. Because, well, we have a video over on Hickory Croft that I will link above that you can go check out on why we only grow 4 types of squash here on the homestead. So that's the plan. We're going to get this diced up, steamed, chops cooked, and probably some other veggie dish, but I haven't decided what that's going to be yet. Usually with chops, I do beans with garlic and salt, so it'll probably be frozen beans out of the freezer. I know, that's where frozen beans go, right? But maybe I'll change my mind. Who knows? Talk to you in a minute. All right, so we'd slowly been cutting off section by section as we went, and we finally hit seeds, which is exciting because that's the part we really wanted. I know that seems weird, but now that we've got it open, squash is something that's super easy to save seeds from. All we're going to do is scoop them out. They're they're not long, big seeds, but they're meaty, wide seeds. I don't know how you describe it, but they don't look like normal squash seeds, which is interesting. So we're going to put these on a plate. We need them to fully dry out before we store them, because if you put them in a bag or a container or anything like that while they're still damp, they will rot and you'll have no seeds. So it looks like from this squash, we're going to get a lot. We'll definitely put them to the side and I'll show you at the end how many we got out of this one single squash.
So as I'm processing this for dinner, I have to admit, even though it looks really bad on the outside, there's not a lot of damage on the inside. Granted, where the big black sections are, we're cutting those out, but the flesh on the inside is really nice. I had to cut a little piece here, and we've managed to get quite a few seeds already, which is awesome.
All right, so I just did the stab test on our squash and it is ready to go, and I am super excited for it because it smells amazing. So beans are in the microwave. I decided to go with beans because that's just kind of our standard, and we have a lot of them in the freezer. And now we're going to get these gorgeous chops into the frying pan. Oh, I think I might be smoking us out. It's my textbook move when it comes to these. The whole house ends up smoky after. All right, so usually when I do my chops, now we get our chops cut like the 1-inch thick type, and I usually let them go for about 6 minutes, and then I flip them over and do about 6 minutes on the other side. So we're now to that point. Oh yeah, they look good. All right, there's our gorgeous squash. Super easy to mash up. Cooked to perfection, in my opinion. We're going to put a little bit of butter in there. Like that. Now, normally I would do pepper and a bit of brown sugar. That was my old way of doing this. Now, obviously, with us watching the sugars, that is not going to be on the table. So hopefully this squash has enough wonderful flavor with just a little bit of salt and pepper and butter that it will taste perfect. All right, so moment of truth. I really want to try this squash. Now, right now, this just has butter. I didn't add salt, pepper, or anything. Wow. It's called a candy squash for a reason. That is some sweet stuff. I probably will still put a little bit of salt and pepper. Probably would have put more butter too, but just trying to watch how much butter we're using. That is for the win. And I forgot to mention my homemade mint jalapeno jelly for my lamb chops. Time to dig in. So those lamb chops were the last meal I made before I hurt my back. 5 days ago now. It was doing chores, lifting a bale of hay, and out I was. So finally it's feeling good enough for me to stand and get moving on things. So we're about to get back into the groove and hopefully tackle something in that freezer in a second. But being out of commission did cause us to use a lot of things out of the pantry. And that's one of the things that is amazing is when you have that store in the pantry of those ready-made meals, when I just couldn't get up the oomph, I guess you could say, to cook from scratch, they came in handy. And I'm going to tell you right now just what we're up to so far in January used out of the pantry. We are up to 26 jars used out of the pantry. So definitely not coming up to my 10 a week yet, but I did do a lot of cooking out of the freezer earlier in the challenge, and that certainly balanced it out. But today we're going to be tackling making some fruit, and I'm going to get out my juicer. I'm so excited. Let's take a look. And you guys might remember how excited I was to get this pot, but I have to admit this steam juicer has been used very, very little. You saw me make some of those raspberry, no, it wasn't even the raspberry syrup. I think it was raspberry syrup, or there was blackberry syrup, something like that. And that's about it. It hasn't come out again because we just bunged everything in the freezer. And as you know, the freezer has become a challenge all on its own. So today we're going to go and raid that freezer, see what we can get out. I know, because I put them on top last time I was in there, that we're going to start with our choke cherries. We have a huge bag of choke cherries, not from 2024, but actually from 2023. Chris went and got those when he was on a work trip, and it was amazing. He brought home, I think it was like 14 pounds or something. Might have even been more than that.
I'm not at home this week, but I can't pass up an opportunity to forage for something that's going to be very useful. There are tons of choke cherries.
Anyways, long story short, they're still in the freezer and we need to get them out because we need that space. So let's take a look and see if we can find them. And yes, we are still working on the upstairs freezer. And yes, it is still super full. We have made no progress whatsoever this year, but I do think I need to tackle at the end of the month, after I've done the full month of the pantry challenge, an organize of the freezer to get a better idea of what's in there. I've had some amazing suggestions on maybe making a list and tracking it a little bit better so that I don't lose those items. But one thing I have to say is when they get buried in the chest freezer, I find it so frustrating trying to get stuff out. But that's okay. I've taken out a few meat items for tonight's dinner. We had some old goose breast from 2023. That's out and marinating. And we're going to get this fruit out. So let's take a look. All right. So I can already tell things have gotten shuffled because they're not on the top anymore. Typical, right? So here we've got some blueberries and blackberries. We've managed to shuffle things. Oh, and a bunch of lamb. But we managed to shuffle a bunch of things for smoothies. And now I've got to dig and find them. All right. I'm sure they're on this side. We've been trying to go through some of this old squash. We'll have some of that tonight, I think, for supper. This is from 2021. That's how old this is. And you can see it's not really freezer burnt, but it's definitely got some snow in there. But we're finding it tastes just fine. And this is a whole bunch of lamb. Ah, here we go. Here we go. Not sure if you can see it in here. Oh, come on. Oh, boy. It's heavy enough. Look at that. Wonder how many pounds it is. I think we're going to weigh it to find out. And the sad thing is I took that big bag out, put everything else back in, and you can barely tell. All right, let's see just how much this weighs. Got her zeroed on the pounds. Just over 5 pounds of choke cherries in that bag. So I'm taking a moment to read the instructions, which is something that I very rarely do. And it says in here, I just don't want to mix it up here. 1 kilogram of berries yields about 1 liter of juice. So we have about 2 and not quite 2.5 here realistically. So I guess we can expect upwards of 3 liters of juice. So that's pretty good because most recipes for jellies or syrups or things like that only call for like 4 cups. So if we can get 3, then that's 3 batches of choke cherry jelly. Now, as you know, we're trying to avoid the sugar content as much as possible. So we are going to try something using some stevia in this to sweeten it and a little bit less sugar for actually making it. So that's where our Pomona's pectin comes in. All right, so our steaming pot of water is ready at the bottom. So we're gonna get our top on and we're gonna put our berries into that and we're gonna turn it on. And I'm thinking probably at least an hour and 20 minutes is what's gonna be needed because we're putting in a lot of berries at one time and they are frozen. So it will take a little while for them to actually get any heat to steam. So that's the plan. Make sure when you're doing it, you clip this guy up. We'll go with that. And that keeps it from just going down into the hose. So that's our plan. And I'll bring you back when we're ready to drain this juice and see what we got. And in case you haven't guessed it from what's behind me here, while that's steaming, we're going to have, you guessed it, beet smoothie for lunch. Surprise, surprise. Well, guys, in typical Stephanie fashion, today is not going quite as planned. And we're going to talk a second about that. I emptied the juicer and it's cooled off. Not quite 2 liters. I'll be honest, I did think I was going to get more, but I don't want to overdo the fruit because I hear that you can get kind of a bad flavor from it if you do that. So we stopped there. That's as good as it's going to get, but that's still going to make us a pretty decent amount of syrup. Or I'm thinking I might actually do jelly with it because that's not really enough for syrup. So I think we're going to opt for jelly. But stay tuned because that's going to be tomorrow's job. Because what I started whilst we were working on that is that butter chicken curry with all those frozen tomatoes that we thawed. And got to adding the spices at the very end and realized I didn't have some of them. I've been making so much curry and I hadn't stocked anything before the pantry challenge. So we've got to go to the store. I know, isn't that terrible? So hopefully I won't get too distracted, although I did take time to look at the flyer because I said, if I'm going anyways, I don't want to miss out on a deal. And we're also going to go get some milk while we're at it because the dairy that we get the milk from is out that way. So for now on, we are paused and we will come back to canning up our butter chicken curry and our jelly tomorrow. Well, we are back. It's the next day and we acquired the spices we need. I actually I bought 2 packs just so that I had enough because I didn't want to have to mess around. The other thing we did purchase was some more ambrosia apples. These are Ontario grown, and to be honest, we discovered these this year and we absolutely love them. I want to get an ambrosia apple tree to plant close to the house for next year because these are ones that I want to be growing for just general eating purposes. But in the end, with the milk and all the apples and what else did we get? I think that was pretty much it, actually. There was the milk, the apples, and the... Oh, no, wait. I got one other thing. 3 blocks of the Food Basics Selection Swiss cheese. We like the Swiss cheese from them because it has no modified milk ingredients. It's just good Swiss cheese. And this time of year, we do a lot of raclette cooking, which involves cheese, of course. So in the end, we probably had... These were on sale, $4.44, and it's a 400-gram... block. Now, our cheddar cheese that we buy when it's on sale at Superstore is a 500-gram block and it's $11.99. So that is a significant saving. And I don't mind it on my omelets. It's not my favorite cheese for some things, but I don't mind it. So those were $4.44. The apples were $2.98. And each little pouch of this garam masala was $3.77. So all in all, not too bad. We did get dairy because I need to make some yogurt. There was a bit of a catastrophe with the yogurt last time, and it's now only for smoothies. So we're going to get started on a new batch. I did purchase a new starter yogurt to get that going. So that's where we're at. $60 on milk and about $27 on grocery products. So all in all for January, not too bad, I think. But it's time to get some yogurt made, get this spice put into our curry so we can get that canned up today. And then hopefully we will get to making some syrups. All right, so we've got that curry on the stove. I added the 4 tablespoons of garam masala that was missing from the recipe. So we're going to get that back to boiling, get it jarred up, get it in the pressure canner. I want it to boil for probably about half an hour. Now, I did cook it down already, so we don't need a lot more thickness, but I want to make sure that heat is all the way through before we put it into the water bath canner. So that's where we're at on that. And meanwhile, I'm making some rice for dinner tonight. It's still a ways off before dinner, but one thing I did need was the jar from the chicken broth. So I want to do the curries in the bigger 750 ml jars, and I only had 6 left, and my canner will hold 8. So I figured we'll do rice. We'll use the 2 cups of chicken broth instead of water this time, because we do like to use that sometimes, and that'll give me at least 1 extra jar, and then we'll see. Maybe I'm going to have to go and scrounge something else. Well, guys, once again, it's been a busy day. Yogurt. You can probably hear it bubbling away. The butter chicken curry is in the water bath canner. And now we got the walkout to make dinner, because we did have probably about 3 cups of the curry sauce left over. And we have a ton of leftovers from a raclette that we did the other night. So we're going to kind of bung everything in here. It's going to be quite the concoction. We have a thing of bean sprouts that we're going to use up. We have that black rice, the riceberry rice, which we're going to try in here again. And this time we're going to remember to put coconut milk in our curry instead of forgetting like we did last time. All right, so when we do raclette, basically it's a marinated meat cut thin. If you've ever had like a teppanyaki or something like that, that's basically what it is. And we had a ton left over. This is actually lamb and goose combined. And we've got a little bit of rabbit as well marinated. So we're just putting it all in. It's going to be like a wild pot of food. So we've got a little bit of our sesame oil in there with some green onions. And we're just going to plop it in. Oh, listen to that sizzle. Got our rabbit in there as well. And all those wonderful marinades. It's going to be fantastic. That looks like a lot of meat. Then we had a few leftover vegetables as well from that meal. So I've just kind of put them in. We've got some sweet potatoes as well, but we're going to add them at the end. Otherwise, they're going to just be completely mush. Not too much left of those, though. All in all, it's going to be jam-packed with good stuff. We've got some peppers out of the freezer. We've got some squash, some summer yellow squash out of the freezer. Beans. All sorts of good vegetables in here, and then that little bit of rice, which is going to be split amongst a lot of meals. So I think this is going to be a great meal for me.